Chapter 8, You Gotta Be Hard, mentions a teacher, Moses Green, who the students refer to as Preacher. Discuss what could have been the conversation in the room between Preacher, Marvelous, Khan, and William from Preacher's perspective. What do you say to students like this? When students are on the verge of making bad choices, how do you address them knowing the realities of what they have to face if they choose to accept your advice, as discussed later in the chapter? This may be a challenge, but stay focused and in tune with the realities the students face on a daily basis.
Um, well, I thought it was good how he talked to them. What was it, after school?
Yeah.
After school, and like just them, like no one else was there, and that maybe they were talking about like why they don't like each other or why they don't get along or how they can maybe not get along, but just
Work together.
yeah,
Yeah.
work, and go to school and not fight like they did that day.
I think him even just like giving them the option of talking about it is probably not like their first thought. Like if they have a problem, their way to handle it is to fight or to get physical with someone else. So they might not even have thought, like maybe we can just talk about this and it can be done with and it never has to grow into something bigger. So him just like even giving them that option is a good thing.
I think not getting them in trouble neither, like not sending them right to the principal's office and, doing the same thing that normal kids when they fight. Have them sit down and, saying like, let's just talk about it, like being real with them, on a different level, not just, all right, get it out of my face. I don't care about you. You did this. Like, go to the principal now. No, he took that time. He sat down with them. He let them talk to each other. He let them voice their opinions, which probably never happens in anywhere, And maybe in class, yeah, they get to talk here and there, but how many of them actually do it? Plus, they respect this guy. They look up to this guy. It's not just like a normal, any other teacher. It's the preacher they call him. Like, and obviously they gave him that nickname because they respect him. They know that he, is doing this one for a purpose. It's for a good reason.
And just like you said, the fact that he didn't just say, you can go to the principal, like that's going to make them, if you just send them to the principal, no one would sit in the principal's office and talk to the principal and try and talk out what happened. But the fact that, like, all of those students, even though they don't like each other, they all feel like the preacher's on their side. And, like, so they all feel like they trust him enough that they could say whatever they needed to say in the classroom.
Right. Somebody's listening to them, you know?
Even if the kid feels like the other kid isn't listening to him, like he knows that, like maybe he was sitting there talking directly to the teacher, like looking at the teacher, not even looking at the other kid, but the other kid's still sitting there listening to it and like hearing their perspective.
And I think that relates a lot here though too. Like I'm sure this neighborhood they fight a lot, or there's a lot of like shootings and everything around here. And my kids, like there's always there's every day when one kid's like, I'm gonna beat you up, and they always like threaten each other and they try to fight each other, but like that's just what they're used to. So that's how they grew up, and that's all they know.
That's just what they know. Yeah, like if they have a conflict, their first thought is to handle it like through fighting or violence. Whereas like if we were taught when we were younger, talk about your problems, go to someone that can help you, like that would be our first thought, but it's not like that for them. So to have a teacher that's going to sit down and take the time to show them that, like, this is a different way.
Right. And I think it has, like it says, to stay in tune with what the students face on a daily basis. Like, basically these kids have parents that probably really don't care. They're in gangs, they're around violence and drugs and everything. So when they're having that person, actually give a damn about them and, take the time to hear them out and to listen to what they have to say, you might be able to change a person's perspective. You might not be able to get them out of the gang or, have them be civil with one another, but, it might give them a different outlook on things. The next time they might want to approach the situation that way.
Because even the toughest kid, like the toughest little kid in my class, like he still cries and like wants attention sometimes and wants the teacher to say, like, let's talk about this. Even if like you were walking down the hall, you might see him and be like, oh, all he wants to do is like punch this kid in the face right now. But like all you need is one person to take the time to like help that kid. And if no one else in the school is doing that except for this teacher, then it could have actually yeah, maybe the second they get out on the street and go back to their gangs, they're going to be like, screw this kid, whatever. But at least in school, you gave them a chance that they can just like you said, they don't have to like each other, but they can walk past each other in the hall and just even just look the other way, like just not fighting.
Yeah.
But I wonder what it would have been like if they didn't respect him, if he wasn't like
Right.
a teacher that
Yeah.
they would have listened to. You
Like
know?
if it was Mr. Mechie, like
I feel like even having them stay after school, like that was in of itself like something
Risking
good for him to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, because I don't know.
I think not so much the gangs that here in Shepherd, but I mean pretty much the school is basically like Shepherd with, you know, the drugs and you know the parents and their outside life and whatnot. And I don't know. I just think, you know, their life on a daily basis is, you know, a battle, and
Silence,
yeah, and that's just how they respond. So I think sitting and talking about it, like hearing each other out, like with the guys, like maybe they want to like you don't know what their home life's like. You don't know if you know somebody just died or got shot or is in the hospital.
Yeah.
So no, you might have some respect for that other person the next time.
Or the problems
Something
could have like
happens,
stemmed
yeah.
from the neighborhood or something
Exactly.
happened and someone did something.
And especially kids like in this book that are older, like you
Yeah.
said, it was, you know, like the kid's mom might have got shot or something, and then if another kid hears that, just like you
Yeah.
said, it's like, all right, I still don't like you, but
yeah,
I
I'll give you
respect
that,
what
yeah.
you're going through, and you know,
Exactly.
just like we always talk about with teachers, just like modeling and leading by example. Like if you take the time to sit down and show these kids, like, you know, let's talk about this,
Yeah.
then maybe in the future they're going to do that on their own.
And you might, and I mean, modeling, that, like by Mr. Mitchie seeing him, you know, he might take the time the next time. He might, you
Yeah.
know, feed off of that other teacher and learn from that other teacher, and you know, maybe discuss pointers here and there how to become, you know, better at talking to the kids.
Yeah.
Or, you know, find out more about those kids' personal lives and stuff like that.
So, do we answer anything?
Oh, sorry. Okay, what do you say to students like this?
I mean, I think it's all just like a really individualized thing. I don't think we could say, like, obviously he knew the students and had a personal relationship with them, and that's going to make it a lot easier.
Like basics, like fighting's not the answer.
Yeah.
I think it's more what the kids had to talk about,
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
Steve and more him, because
That's
they
true.
had a
It's probably the
Yeah.
best approach to, like, you know, not just obviously not let them go in there and just have it out with each other,
Yeah.
but like let them talk and you be more like the mediator,
Yeah.
not like you're running the conversation. Because then they're gonna talk about what they actually want to talk about, and it's not gonna be them just like responding to your
like
questions.
I'm just saying
or,
I'm sorry because they have to.
yeah, so I can get out of here.
When students are on the verge of making bad choices, how do you address them knowing the realities of what they have to face if they choose to accept your advice? Do we say it? No.
I mean, with that, just like we said, like, you know, they could get back out on the street and go back to their gangs, but like, you know, letting the kid know, like, that's not okay in school, and
Yeah.
maybe
Making an
I
effort.
can't get you out of this gang, even though I would like to, but, you know, you're not in this gang when you're in school, so.
Yeah, and like the one part of the book says how somebody's brother like doesn't even come home anymore because they're constantly trying to get them into the gang. And I think, you know, if you're advising them, you know, to leave the gang, and there's a harsh reality of, you know, the consequences of you leaving. Like, they might come after you.
Yeah.
And, like, you have to basically tell the kids that.
Yeah.
And how do you say that without saying you might actually die by leaving the gang? But it's better to be out of the gang. You know?
I mean, I think especially with kids that age, a big part of it is like just being honest. You know,
Mhm.
like they know the truth,
Yeah.
and they, like we said,
Sometimes they just
see it
hear
every
it.
day. Yeah. Sometimes it's just like, especially if it's a teacher that they respect, and like, you know, just to hear that from that person is enough of a reality check.